Hey, party people, Panda Brady here, and today I just wanted to ramble about Ruby, basically. So I recently binge watched seasons, or not seasons, volumes 1 through 3. They make it very clear it's not a season. Um, and I have to say that after having seen seasons 4 and 5, and going back and rewatching, a lot of it is nostalgia that I still love the series for how it is. I can now look back and see that the writing really hasn't been that much worse in seasons 4 and 5 because, like, people point out lines like Raven where she's like, Salem only uses people as long as they're useful. Um, but yeah, I was watching it again, and there's a few areas where it's like, yeah, that could have been written better in seasons 1 through 3. But, I mean, they were starting out, it's really, it's different. It's different. Of course, the series has to get a little bit darker and grow. Certain characters have to have their moments of character growth, which rewatching just felt really, really odd with Blake constantly acting like she's powerless despite being one of the, despite being a huntress and taking on hundreds of Grimm. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, it was fun to watch it. There's a lot of foreshadowing that really felt ham-handed after seeing seasons 4 and 5. Of course, at the time I didn't realize what they're saying, but going back and looking at it, and it's like, oh man, that was really obvious. Not saying that I could do better. Not at all. Case in point, my fanfic. But I'm not going to talk about the fanfic. Because it may be a AU depending on how this pitch goes, but anyways, yeah, the pitching is very odd because it's Rooster Teeth, and they're like, yeah, maybe we will, maybe we won't. It's odd, but I'm not going to talk about that. Anyways, so those of you that don't know, Volume 1 basically sets up the characters, lets you know who they are. You see Ruby, and she's all gung-ho about being, yeah, let's save everybody. I'm going to be the one that destroys all the Grimm. But she never actually says that. It's like a happy version of Eren Yeager. But, yeah, we've got Ruby, who is 2 years younger than everybody else, but highly skilled because she was taught by her Uncle Crow, whom Headmaster knows, but you don't find that out for at least 2 more volumes. I'm going to get some water, because I have no idea how long this is going to take. You have Yang Xiaolong, who's a fiery blonde that has very adult proportions, let's put it that way. They've brought it up in the show. And she's got a fiery temper, which means her semblance makes sense. And I'll get into that later. We've got Waishni, the heiress, who is basically an Ojo-sama. Very high and mighty, thinks everything that's below her is just crazy, and but it's not nearly as played as it could be, which I do like. And then you have Blake, who is just a girl with giant with a giant bow on her head, no reason. And she's very quiet, bookworm kind of character. At first. You also meet, this is more during the initiation, you meet Jean Arc, Pyranikos, Lai Rin, and Nora Valkyrie. Jean is clumsy and supposed to be the audience self-insert. I believe he is actually the self-insert character of one of the writers. Which he's... I'm going to save my opinion on him. I know that sounds ominous, but yeah. Pyranikos is similar to her namesake. Well, not namesake, but who she's based off of. She's an Olympian looking athlete, basically. She's top of her class in fighting. She's got all these different skills. She's highly trained. She even uses a shield and sword that turns into a spear rifle. Not the shield, of course, which that's pretty cool. We've got Lai Rin, who is basically that team's Blake. He has machine gun pistols, and he's just very quiet. He's actually extremely quiet, and once, if those of you that don't know, Monty Oum, the creator of the show, passed in the creation, during the creation of Volume 3, and suddenly, Lai Rin's character talked a lot more. I noticed it while watching Season 3, in Season 4, Volume 3. Volume 4 and 5, he talks a lot, and he's supposed to be a smart character, but you can't really tell that. Let's just put it that way. And then we have Nora Valkyrie, who's the hyperactive, super strong girl. She's Genki, for those of you that are more anime-oriented. She has a hammer that's a grenade launcher. She is my favorite character. Only because my actual favorite character no longer exists. But I'm not going to... I might as well spoil it. Anyways, so you do the initiation arc, which is the first, half of the show, which is just Ruby getting accepted into Beacon, everybody meeting the first night. Then they get to the initiation, where they all launch into a forest full of Grimm, and they have to retrieve relics at the end of the forest and bring them back to the cliff. And whoever you first see after landing is your partner, unless they're already taken. Which, yeah, technically, if they go by which two teams see each other makes up the 4 characters of each team, we would have a team of Ruby, Weiss, Pyrrha, and Jean, and then we would have a team of Yang, Blake, Nora, and Rin, which that would make for a fun team composition, but it's overly redundant. But yeah, anyways, they fight some big Grimm, they show them off, and it's like, ooh, wow, those things are really strong. It took a whole team of these trained people to take them down. And later volumes are just like, nah, they're fodder. They're cannon fodder for the second years, and then anyways, moving on, we've also got Roman Torchwick, who's supposed to be this big criminal mastermind guy, and he's based on Lampwick from Pinocchio, which I really wanted him to end up getting turned into a Grimm or something to mirror the book, but this show really doesn't like to mirror the books super heavily. They will mirror the books, just not a lot. One sec. That's some good water. Water, it's healthy for you. Anyways, he is teaming up with the White Fang, which are a group of faunus radicals, not necessarily terrorists, because it's two sides of the same thing. The White Fang, faunus are people with animal traits, which means, like, if you're a cat faunus, you could have the ears of a cat, or the tail of a cat, or the claws. According to the show, all faunus have night vision. In volume 1, they may have retconned that. Because of a later volume 5 thing. Ugh. I really have to get used to calling it volume instead of season. Anyways, he's teamed up with the White Fang, and he's trying to steal a whole bunch of dust. Nobody can really figure out why. Character development, of course, is in the second half of the first volume, and it's really more of Jean character development, because it's what a lot of people call the bully arc. I like to call it the Jean arc. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Aren't I a Yang? Anyways, yeah, Yang is supposed to be punny. She doesn't have any puns in the first volume, but yeah. Her actress, Barbara Dunkelman, is known in Rooster Teeth for being hugely into puns, and I adore her for that. I am a punny person. Anyways, so yeah, Torchwick's trying to get a whole bunch of dust. They're not really sure why. There's this mystery woman that helped him escape in the first episode, but you never see her again until the end of volume 1. Torchwick is trying to get dust, which is a type of... I mean, they might as well have just called it materia, honestly, if you're a Final Fantasy fan. In the beginning of the show, it was, there are 4 types of dust, which are based on fire, water, earth, and wind. And they had them as, like, green, red, blue, and, like, a brown, I think it was, or blackish-looking color. And they explain in a side segment that sometimes contradicts what's going on. They explain that it can be mixed together to perform other results, such as gravity-based things, or lightning, or ice, stuff like that. Yeah, so he wants to get a bunch of dust, and I don't think the show ever really truly says why. So they go ahead and fight Roman at the docks, and yeah, thanks to the help of Sun, who is a monkey faunus, helping out Blake, who, it's revealed, oh, big shock, she's a cat faunus, and she's wondering why the White Fang are working with a human, and she's trying to stop him because he has some kind of evil plan, and they're not sure what it is. So they manage to stop him, but not before he's like, oh, I have a big operation going on, actually, and I've got these jet helicopter things. And robot friend Penny shows up, even though they don't reveal she's a robot until volume 2, but it's pretty obvious. She's based on Pinocchio. She shows up and has, she's basically BlazBlue's new 12, which Monty loves basing his character's weapons off of video games. And that's totally fine. That's totally fine with me. If you've watched his Dead Fantasy series or Haloid, you know that's where he shines. But he manages to make them his own things. They're actually gun blades. They're swords that turn into like a laser gun. Anyways, so yeah, they managed to stop a whole bunch of them. Roman ends up getting away, and yeah, there's not really a whole lot that happens there. In season 2, volume 2, they, let's see, I'm gonna get some water. Volume 2, Blake is all super worried and, very upset because she used to be a member of the White Fang, and her boyfriend, who is hinted at having abused her, and she's just one of those characters that's like, no, it's fine, I deserved it, kind of thing, but no, they never explicitly say this, is part of the White Fang, and she's worried that he might be coming for her, but they don't really reveal that until much later on. The mystery woman now has 2 hinge people, which are Emerald and Mercury. Mercury, who it's revealed in season 3, is an assassin with robot legs, and Emerald is, I want to say, Aladdin. She is basically a street rat, who has the ability to make people see what she wants. That's her semblance, which every character has their own semblance. But like I said, I'm getting into that later. So season 2, they're just trying to track down Roman and stop him. Roman's like, haha, I'm still teamed up with the White Fang, and I'm going to go to this rally and try to get even more Faunus on my side by showing them that we've stolen this giant robot. It's kind of giant. It's like 20 feet tall-ish. He's all like, oh, humans are the worst. I should know. I'm one of them. And luckily for you all, I'm a great exterminator of humans thanks to this giant robot I have. Hey, wait a minute. Is that Blake and Son out in the audience? Somebody turned off the lights. Oh, nobody can see them. Hurry, stop. Where'd they go? And, of course, Blake and Son jump out, and it's one of the times where it's like, it shouldn't really have affected anybody, except for Roman and his sidekick, Neo. So, Roman's out on the highway with his giant robot, and Son and Neptune, which is a friend of Son's, help out the Ruby gang to take down this giant robot. They finally reveal Yang's semblance, even though you've seen it throughout the series multiple times. And they end up destroying the robot, and Neo saves Roman, and they're all upset again. Which, yeah, this seems to be a running thing. They find the bad guy. They fight the bad guy. The bad guy gets away. Oh, man, we didn't do it. So, yeah. I have an itchy nose. Then there's a school dance, and during the school dance, you see... Wait, is that volume 2? That might be volume 3. One sec. Yeah, no. Okay. It is volume 2. There's a school dance, and everybody's there, and there's a bunch of love stuff going on, and people revealing their feelings. But, of course, this is a action-based show, so they throw in a little bit of action where Mystery Woman sneaks into the communication tower and puts a bug in it. Because in this world, everybody communicates between the 4 kingdoms that they're in. Earth, fire, wind, water. No, I'm kidding. But through giant towers. And it's basically like, how to put it? A call center? Where you can just sit down and talk on the video phone to whomever, wherever, as long as they're there, or have access to it. Yeah, she sneaks in, plants a bug, and Ruby tries to stop her. She fails. Some people are like, well, did you manage to do it? No, I didn't. Huh, well, did she say anything? No, she didn't. Oh, wait, no, yeah, she said, this place, which she lies and is pointing out something that Roman said to them to make them investigate that area. So the Ruby's team ends up going on a mission with one of their professors. Dr. Oobleck, he talks very fast and he's always on coffee. On coffee? He has a thermos of coffee, he drinks it a lot. He's supposed to be very smart and very intelligent. And he's voiced by Joel Heyman, who is, I almost said Haywood, that would be hilarious, Ryan Joel. But who voices Caboose in Red vs. Blue, who is supposed to be the dumbest character in the show. Let me get some water. So they go on this mission. They're just supposed to eradicate a bunch of Grimm and find out why they're in this area. Of course, this is because the headmaster let them go on that mission, which is supposed to be for second years or up. But he knows they know something, and he does that a lot in this show. He's like, I know there's something here, but I'm not going to outright say it. I'm going to let you choose. And that the theme of choice becomes a huge thing later on. But I digress. Anyways, during the mission, Ruby gets separated, finds Roman and the White Fang. They have a train that's going to go straight into the city, and it's loaded with explosives. Some people think this is why he needed all the dust, but again, it doesn't make sense. Because, like, if he needs all the dust in the city, it's going to be more than just a single bomb. I know it was more like 12 bombs because of the number of cars on the train, but still. So anyways, the rest of the team gets down because it's underground, and they get on the train and they try to stop it. Each of the members of RWBY split up and end up taking on their own villain, except for Ruby, who's taking on a couple of giant robots on the roof. Yang takes on Neo. Weiss takes on a lieutenant in the White Fang that has this giant chainsaw sword, because her family owns a dust factory and they use Faunus labor, and so some Faunus harbor a grudge against her. And Blake goes to fight Torchwick. I keep hearing noises in my room, but I don't see anything. Anyways, what is that sound? Anyways, so yeah, they basically defeat each of their people except for Yang, because Neo is unstoppable for some reason. But Neo runs off before she can deliver the finishing blow. Before the final blow was struck. Raven, who is Yang's mom, that's not a spoiler, they pretty much come out and say it later on, shows up and she's got a mask on, and her whole thing is she can teleport, or create portals. Oh no, my computer. Okay, good. So she shows up and scares Neo off. They fail to stop the train, and it does blow open a hole, but only a small hole, which a whole bunch of Grimm come through because the train has been blowing up along the way and making holes so that the Grimm can come under the wall and go straight into the middle of the city. Which makes it feel kind of like Attack on Titan when they do that. Because each of the kingdoms are supposed to have these giant walls that keep out the Grimm, but they're not nearly as focused on the wall as they are the outside or the inside. But anyways, so the Grimm show up and everybody has this big fight scene, and the second year come up to help, and it's 2 first-year teams and a second-year team take out most of the Grimm. There's a man named Ironwood who's with the Atlas, which is another nation's army, and he drops a bunch of robot soldiers to come help. Basically, long story short, is that entire build-up led to nothing other than Blake getting over her own issues because she finally took down Roman. Ironwood is all like, "Who are you working for, Roman?" And Roman's like, "Isn't it obvious? It's me! Haha, I'm a smarmy bastard." Which he really is. He's very smug and classy, and he's my favorite villain in the show. Too bad he dies in Volume 3. I really wanted him to come back, but the current villains that they've shown off are all terrible. I'm sorry. So, Volume 3 is what we call the tournament arc, because they've been hinting at it through Volume 1 and 2, and now we come to Volume 3, where they have this giant floating arena that goes to each of the kingdoms, and it's a symbol of unification between the 4 kingdoms. And so all the students from around the world gather together and have a big tournament against each other to see who's the best at fighting each other. Even though the Grimm are all monster-looking things that are based on animals, usually. I know people were initially like, well, why are they showing off who's the best against human opponents? But now they've shown other Grimm, and some of them are humanoid in appearance. Such as the Geist and the Nuka-Levy. I believe that's how you say it. Nuka-Levy? Nuka-Levy? I could be wrong. I'm going to just say Nuka-Levy. Nuka-Levy, rather. Which is a demon-looking thing on top of a horse with stretchy arms. And the Geist is just a ghostly-looking humanoid with a single eye. Anyway, so Volume 3, it's got everybody fighting in the tournament. Meanwhile, Cinder, the mystery woman, has finally shown herself, and she's got her henchmen with her, and Neo with her, and they're pretending to be a team in the fight, which really seems out of place to me, because I'm like, well, no, actually it doesn't. Because in Volume 1, John forged his papers and got into the school without anybody realizing something was up. Which should say something about the school systems there. John wasn't trained like everybody else was. It's like a primary school and then these combat schools. Which reminds me of Final Fantasy VIII, by the way. But these primary schools teach you and train you so that you can go to the combat schools, but Jean was just like, I'll be fine. I'll just hop right into the combat school. But anyways, so they sneak in as their own team from, I want to say Mistral. Yeah, I believe it's Mistral. So, one sec. So they fight through it, and because of the bug that they placed in the tower, they got a hold of Ironwood's ship, because his whole army is there, and they're all like, oh, we're going to protect this place with whether you like it or not. And you get introduced to Crow, Weiss's older sister, a bunch of other characters, but throughout the volume. Where was I going? I had a pop-up, it drew my attention away. So Cinder's group are actually hacking the system so that the randomization process for the tournament is not so random. And their whole plan is because Grimm feed on negative emotions and are drawn to them. Their whole plan is to reveal that Penny is a robot and that the forces of Atlas are making robotic soldiers that will hide in plain view. Which, now that I think of it, it's like the Brotherhood of Steel's mantra, where they're like, from Fallout, where they're like, no, androids and synths are bad. We can't have them around here. They could be your grandma for all you know. So they're trying to spread that into the fear of the people. And they also tried to make it look like the combat schools are not teaching the students very good etiquette, basically, and are just rough people, basically. Because they rig it so that Mercury ends up fighting Yang, and Emerald uses her abilities to make Yang think that Mercury is attacking her after the fight. After they're supposed to, shake hands and be like, oh, good game. Yeah, good game, good game. Yeah, good game, good game. Oh, good game. Yeah. So Mercury makes her think that, or Emerald makes Yang think Mercury is attacking her, and she goes to punch him for the counterattack, which, that's part of her fiery temper, honestly. I mean, most people, they'd probably just dodge and it'd look weird and everybody'd be like, what's going on? But no, she punches and ends up breaking Mercury's leg, which, surprise, it's a robot leg, but nobody can see that thanks to Emerald's power. At least not the paramedics. So it was all a trick. Everybody's all upset. The Grimm are like, huh? What? Negative emotions? You don't say. That's a good buffet. There's too many people over there. I'm not gonna go. Maybe if somebody else got a little upset, that'd be fine. So then the next fight is between Pyranikos, whose semblance is magnetism, which against Robot Girl Penny is it's not a good mix. It's like mixing bleach and ammonia. You just don't do it. So, yeah, Ruby starts to figure it out because Emerald is still there even though she left with Mercury. Go get some water. I splashed myself. How do I splash myself? Anyways, so she tries to go and tell somebody, but Mercury shows up and he's like, nope, it's just you and me. I mean, you can't go out that door that you just came in or anything in this hallway. So, yeah, Emerald makes Pyrrha think that Penny makes hundreds of swords out of nowhere and tries to kill her with them. So Pyrrha uses her magnetism to throw them away. And it's really dumb to me that this happens, but it happens. So Penny's got the swords above her back, and she goes to stab downwards. Pyrrha throws them all backwards. Oh, well, no, I guess that does make a little bit of sense. Anyways, she throws them all backwards, and the swords go back, wrap around Penny's arms and legs, and tear her limbs off. Her being a robot, she basically dies from the magnetism more than anything else. But her arms and legs are cut off, and everybody can see the circuitry and wires and stuff, and they're all like, oh no, what's this? And that is when Cinder hijacks the PA system and is like, oh, Brotherhood of Steel, Brotherhood of Steel, Brotherhood of Steel. And everybody's like, oh, Brotherhood of Steel. Yes, Brotherhood of Steel. As in, oh, Atlas is making these robot soldiers to pose as people. Isn't that weird? Oh, what could they be doing? Oh, I'm so frightened and scared. Well, everybody's scared, angry, frightened, all this. So it draws a whole bunch of Grimm in. Getting some water. Everybody's all upset. Some Grimm get into the Coliseum. And this bugs the crap out of me. Because you have an entire Coliseum full of trained Grimm-killing machines. What do you think would happen if, some Grimm started showing up and coming into the arena? Do you think, A, they'd all decide to pick up their weapons and just kill them right there? B, run and hide. C, some run and hide, some stay and fight. Or D, everybody run and hide, except for the characters that we've kind of focused on during this arc. If you chose D, you obviously know how this goes. So, almost all of the other hunters and huntresses who are supposed to be going after these Grimm run off and are all scared. There's a whole side plot with... well, it's not side plot, it's actually the main plot, is they're trying to do all this. Cinder's group is trying to do all this to get everybody upset and worried so that there will be too much going on so that they can go steal the maiden power, which 4 maidens, based on the seasons, summer, spring, autumn/fall, they've said both, though nowadays they just say fall, and winter. The Fall Maiden was attacked by Cinder and her group and had half of her Fall Maiden powers, which are considered magic in the show. Even though they have stuff like semblances and dust, where they basically shoot magic out of anywhere, basically. They can create magic, stuff like that, but anyways, magic is different than semblance and dust. And like I said, I'll get into that later. So yeah, she's been doing this so she can get into this vault area where the Fall Maiden is being kept alive on life support, basically. Because if she kills the Fall Maiden, she gets the Maiden's powers. Even though she already stole half of them, she would have all of them. Pyrrha was approached by the headmaster, who's known about all of this and probably knows more than he lets on, as always. And is like, Pyrrha, we want you. We want you. We want you in the Navy too. No, we want you to be the new Fall Maiden. And she's like, well, if it's for the betterment of humanity, yes, I'll do it. And they're like, It's not that simple. If you get these powers, you might not be you anymore. You might be this girl who's sitting in life support. Her soul might overpower yours when we give her power to you. It's really convoluted, and they just kind of really do it more for the drama is the best way to put it. Because it's all supposed to be like, no, this is your choice, you get to decide, and it's basically like, well, this is a lose-lose situation for her. If she does it, she might lose herself and won't remember her friends, her relationships, because she has a thing with Jean, because Jean's the only one that treated her like a normal person, and they explain that in the arc, but Jean arc. But she's all worried and upset and doesn't want to do it, but she does want to do it. But she doesn't want to do it, but she does want to do it. But if she does it, so she shouldn't do it. But if she doesn't, then, yeah, it's basically that for a couple of episodes. So when she finally goes to do it, too late, Cinder kills the main while the process is happening, and Ozpin has Pyrrha and Jean leave and tries to fight Cinder on his own. And he fails. He fails. I will say that now. Volume 4 kind of, well, not kind of, does actually say it. Yes, Ozpin failed, and now he has to get reincarnated. That is a discussion for another time. So, yeah, there's a whole thing where, like, they're all fighting the Grimm, and they're invading right now. Roman gets let out thanks to Neo. He takes control of all of the robots of Ironwood's current army, as well as the giant robots they had with him. Getting some water. And so now they're fighting robots and Grimm at the same time. And Ruby is all like, no, I'm the hero of this story. I have to go and fight Roman. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. Jeez, fudge sentences. So she hops onto her rocket-propelled locker. I know that sounds ridiculous, but every student has it, and it's supposed to be so that they can transport their weapons to them when they don't have them on them. Because, like, in the world of RWBY, almost everything is a weapon, a melee weapon, and a gun. We've got a hammer grenade launcher. It can be a grenade launcher, or it can turn into a hammer that can still shoot out a grenade explosion. We've got a scythe that can also be a sniper. We have a machine gun pistol sword. We have shotgun gauntlets, stuff like that. So yeah, she hops onto the locker and goes off towards the flagship that Roman's in, and she has a fight with Roman and Neo, and we get to hear Roman's philosophy where he's like, oh, I'm this way, and I'm helping out this person because it's helping me. I help myself. If it means I'm going to live, then that's what I'm going to do. Oh, hey, look, irony. Hump. He gets eaten immediately after spouting this. Neo gets defeated by her own weapon, which is an umbrella cane sword thing. Shield. Umbrella, shield, cane, sword that comes out both ends. I know that sounds weird. Getting some water. But, yeah, she gets defeated by her own weapon because it's an umbrella and they're on top of a ship that's flying in the sky little Einsteins. Ruby presses the open button, and Neo goes flying off. And as people say, Mary Poppins is off. To me, I think she's based off of the mute cat from Pinocchio. Because if Torchwick is Lampwick, Neo kind of fits the Calico Cat character from the books. That was always with the fox. Mr. I can't remember his name. I think his first name was Richard. But anyways. So yeah, she gets defeated by her own weapon. You never see her die. Just float away. And they defeat Roman because he gets eaten by a flying Griffin Grim. Ruby manages to miraculously make the Griffin smash into the cockpit of the flagship, and the flagship crashes, causing all the battle droids to stop, similar to Phantom Menace. And when she lands, everybody's like, oh good, you're safe. Man, that's a lot of Grim out here. Yeah, there's this giant Grim dragon thing, and it's dropping stuff, and more Grim are coming out of it. Hey, have you seen Pyrrha or John? No, I haven't. Maybe we should go look for them. Yeah, that's a good idea. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, meanwhile, Blake is confronting her ex, who is like, I'm so mad that you ran from me. I'm going to destroy everything you love so you stay with me. But won't that make me want to leave you more? No, it'll want you to stay with me because I'll show my power. I'm not acting like a brat. I'm not Anakin Skywalker. Man, 2 Star Wars references. So he stabs her to make her yell out in pain, which brings Yang's attention. And then Yang, of course, her fiery temper, charges in, not thinking that this guy with a katana might have a bit of an advantage, and he cuts off one of her arms. Don't worry, they don't show blood, it's just yellow. Because Yang. And then they end up bandaging it, and Blake runs off after her ex nearly kills her. Like, her ex had no idea that he didn't just behead his girlfriend. Which is really weird for Adam's character, but it really cements him as a-hole. Anyway, so yeah, they're laying there with everybody else, and Adam's taken off somewhere. He didn't chase after her or anything, unlike he's been doing for the last couple of volumes, apparently. If you hear me get silent, it's water. So, yeah. Ruby and Weiss go off to find Pyrrha. Pyrrha's like, no, I have to stop Cinder, even though she has the maiden powers. And, you know, it'd be really great if my friends helped me, but Jean, you're the only one with me right now, and you're pretty much useless. If you were there, you'd just be a liability. So, let me stuff you in this locker and send you off. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go fight her by myself. No backup, nothing. Yah! Oh, I died. Seriously, after a big fight, she does actually pretty well, but she obviously strains herself. And I hate talking about this part because I'm going to have to get into the whole Lettergate thing. So, Pyrrha has this fight, throws her shield at Cinder. Cinder shoots a arrow at her, which, because it's made of dust and her maiden powers, she makes it split on the shield, go around and hit Pyrrha in the ankle. the shield doesn't hit its target, which is really weird because it technically never hit the arrow, and it should have at least smacked Cinder in the face, but whatever. So yeah, now Pyrrha has a arrow through her ankle, and she's really weakened, and she has one last thing where she's like, "Do you believe in destiny?" And then she dies. Which is ironic because her character says hello so much. Because eventually she has to say goodbye. Oh, I hurt my heart just saying that. Yeah, Pyrrha was an awesome character. But Penny was my favorite. She's dead. And now Pyrrha's dead. And because Ruby got there just in time to see Pyrrha get shot through the heart and then burned to ash, literally, just poof, turns into orange smoke. She awakens her MacGuffin power, which is the Silver Eye. She's a Silver Eye warrior, meaning that she has a special power against Grimm that's super powerful for no reason. She freezes the giant dragon Grimm. She screws up Cinder pretty badly, but this is all off screen. You find out about it in the next volume, which I'm not talking about in this episode. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. Blake's run off. Weiss is taken home by her father. Ruby wakes up at her home with Yang bandaged up and in bed. And basically, everybody's scattered. The school's destroyed. The Grimm are being cleaned up still. Everybody's in disarray. There's no real victor here. Everybody's all saddened. And again, I'm going to talk about stuff later, but yeah. And then it kind of ends with Ruby teaming up with Rin, Jean, and Nora to go on a big adventure to track down Cinder and basically tell them what's going on. And that's the end of Volume 3. So, yeah. Let's talk about characters. Ruby. I love her, but she's incredibly static. Oh my goodness. She has no character development. And I know you can argue that she does in later volumes where she reveals different emotions. But throughout the whole thing, she is an optimist. She's an optimistic girl that doesn't see the danger behind the profession that she's trying to get into. And she's always happy, energetic, which I guess it kind of plays towards the shonen demographic that way. However, that being said, at least Luffy knows that being a pirate means that he has to do stuff that people find bad, and that people will die if he screws up. Ruby never really admits this. Even with Pyrrha and Penny having died, she acts like she can stop everything if she tries hard enough. And I'm glad she's an optimist. It really helps out her character, but she needs some kind of character development. That being said, the writers behind this were Monty, Carrie Shawcross, and Miles Luna. Monty writes more... How do I put this? I don't know how exactly to put it. I like Monty's writing. Let's put it that way. I like how Monty writes stuff. Sure, it can be cheesy, but that's just how it is. A lot of RWBY felt like Final Fantasy VIII to me, which I'm currently playing on the channel. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it now. I am, by the time this is uploaded, I have just started the mission to leave for Timber. So that means I am probably about a 10th of the way through the game. Anyways, because it's a combat school where they teach children to take on evil monsters throughout the world, and it's actually a front because while they're doing that, they're also trying to train up certain ones to take on a big, evil, scary thing that is actually going to threaten the entire world more so than the regular monsters. Cough, cough. Looks like you probably heard the water that time. I've been talking for a little bit. Almost an hour. Anyways, so, Yang. She is the happy, energetic, fun-loving, adventure-seeking kind of character. She has some great moments when she reveals that she does all this because she wants to find her mom and find out why her mom left them. Because while she is RWBY's sister, she is technically a half-sister, because RWBY's mom was Summer Rose, whom Yang does remember as being part of their life. But Yang's mom is Raven, who is Crow's sister. And Raven just left and basically never came back, and she's trying to figure out why. And honestly, I'd still like to know why, besides the whole... Again, I'll talk about it in the next time. If I do a next time. I may do RWBY tubing. Who knows? I like RWBY. I like Nomad of Nowhere. But anyways, yeah, Yang has some great character moments where she tries to pull the team together, i.e. Blake, and reveals her whole story where she's trying to find her mom, figure out why she left, and basically tell her off in the end. Weiss is stuck-up prude who has all of her character development done and over with in the first volume, where she's stuck up, thinks she's the best, wants everything to go her way. She's an heiress, so everything's been handed to her, and suddenly she is not the leader of a team, and she has to live with it, deal with it. Just because she's the leader doesn't mean she can't be the best, yada yada. So, yeah. First episode out of the... Well, first 2 episodes, rather, out of the initiation arc, she has her growth where she is suddenly best friends with RWBY and willing to work with her. Even though throughout the series, she flip-flops a lot. And then we have Blake. Mopey, sappy, running from everything Blake. Her entire character relies on her being scared. Because she's worried about the blackface, she's worried about Adam, she's worried about what's going to come. She's an anxietal mess and falls to pieces. She wants to stop Roman, she doesn't know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. And honestly, it gets annoying. Blake was a great character at first, and then she quickly just gets jackhammered into the ground. And I really just don't enjoy her character. Maybe it's because it's similar to mine. Just because, like, her whole thing is she doesn't want to speak up and she wants to avoid conflict and all this. And I'm not a very conflict-oriented guy myself. At least not open conflict. I have inner conflict all the time. Holy shite. But anyways, enough about me. Then we have the supporting characters, which are Jean Arc, bumbling doofus, who's supposed to be the audience's stand-in so that characters can explain what certain things are. I wonder what my dogs are barking about. But, it's because he got into the school without knowing anything, and so it gives the writers a chance to be like, oh yeah, it's this thing. Didn't you learn that in school? Yeah, it's semblance. Everybody has a semblance. A semblance is a special power that's based on your personality. Retconned later. Everybody's got aura. Aura is your spiritual energy that acts as a force field. Wait, what? Yeah, and it can heal you too. Why aren't we telling more people about this? Oh, because it's only good for combat. So you don't think telling our civilians who are moving out of the walls into the country that, hey, maybe you want to unlock your aura first. Just maybe. That might save you from gross death. But yeah. Then we have Pyrrha, Nikos, who is just a wonderful character. She, despite her Olympian characteristics, is very shy, shy-ish. She's used to people surrounding her and her being a celebrity. And Jean acts like she's just any other person because Jean has never heard of her because he's an uncultured... No. But... yeah, and her character is very confident and acts shy from time to time. She's used to being held on a pedestal, and she even mentions that, and yeah. She basically doesn't want to be who she is because she wants to be herself and not the person that people see. Let's put it that way. Rin, like I said, volume 1 and 2, almost completely silent. His big thing is being Nora's antithesis. No, not antithesis. Foil. Because he's very calm and collected, very silent, and only speaks when needed. Nora, on the other hand, hyper energetic, says whatever comes to her mind first, ready to, like, do stuff at a moment's notice. There's a scene where Jean's being bullied, and they're like, oh man, Jean, do you need help with that? And she's like, we'll break his legs! And boy, do I love Nora. I love Nora's character, but she is one of those characters that don't have any development. Which is fine, because she and Rin have lots of development in Volume 4. But again, that's for a different time. Jean goes through the bumbling character to getting there, alright character, but he's being helped by Pyrrha along the way, so it's more like she wants to make him the best that he can be, and he is just himself up to the last couple of episodes of Volume 3, where he finally develops a relationship with Pyrrha that Pyrrha's been trying to get subtly through his head that she likes him, and it's high school drama. Let's put it that way, because there's a lot of, oh, I like you, Jean, but I don't want to say it out loud. Oh, well, that's fine, Pyrrha, but I like Weiss. But I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say it directly to your face because I can't read your subtleties. One sec. But, yeah, and, I mean, it's Team Juniper, as they're called, JNPR. They're the side characters. They don't need to be the main characters until volumes 4 and 5, where they integrate into Ruby's story with Team Ranger. Anyways, so yeah, that's volume 1 through 3. I enjoyed it. You can see a steady increase in quality. And then Monty died. He left a lot of stuff unsaid, undone, but planned, apparently, at least according to Lettergate. It was a big mess. I'll try and get a link to the letter, but basically, they wanted to add, Monty wanted more compelling story for Jean. He would be there when Pyrrha dies, and there would be the reason for him to hate Cinder. And it's more dramatic because it's his fault that she dies, stuff like that. And he had started the Maiden Powers and stuff like that. And I really feel like the plot for seasons 4 or volumes 4 and 5 were written solely by Miles, because Miles worked on Red vs. Blue. I can tell Miles worked on Red vs. Blue. There is always a MacGuffin every season of Red vs. Blue, not including the first 100 episodes. First 100 episodes are pretty much just comedy. But they work it in. Yeah. I don't like Miles' writing. I don't like his style of stories. However, I'm sure he's a great guy. And I'm not saying I can do better. I'm saying I've seen better. Carrie seems to be the leash, basically. Carrie seems to be the guy that's keeping Miles from taking the wheel and just taking a sharp left off the bridge, basically. But I don't know how involved Carrie and Miles are throughout the whole thing. I know that Carrie and Miles are currently the 2 lead writers of volumes 4 and 5, and there is a bit of a quality drop. That being said, that's to be expected when the creator dies in the middle of production and leaves it to their friends to finish. I always worry about that myself, with projects and stuff that I do. Anyways, because I'm not a healthy guy, I'm trying to change my ways. Currently, I've lost 70 pounds in half a year, which that's great for me, and I'm trying to get healthier and smaller. Anyways, but yeah, and then we have Ozpin, who is constantly written as this enigma that doesn't want to let on too much. And then we have other side characters that don't have or need the character development. That being said, The show's only as good as its villain. The villain being Cinder throughout the whole thing, through volume 1 and 3, is just this enigmatic person working from the shadows. She has Roman do everything, which is why I adore Roman, because he is such a good, smarmy character. He's sassy, he's got comebacks, he's a great fighter, to an extent. He has Neo, which everybody loves because she's a cute design with Neapolitan hairstyle, and she's got this badass semblance that lets her put an image up and it shatters like glass. But, yeah, Cinder works from the shadows, never reveals her plan. Season 3 comes along, or Volume 3 comes along, and she finally does her plan, and it's a bit underwhelming. They show a little bit of her growth where she brings in Emerald and Mercury into her group, but that's one episode, and the only backstory you get from her is a little bit of echoing. No images during a flashback where she's like, oh, I want power, I want to be strong, stuff like this. Which leads to the real true main antagonist of the show so far. There may be a higher up main antagonist, depending on how far they want to take this. At the very last minute of the show, which they revealed later on her name to be Salem, based on the witch trials. Meaning this is the Wizard of Oz. You have Ozpin, who is sending off 4 people, Dorothy, Lion, Scarecrow, and Tin Man, to take on the Wicked Witch of the West. However, there are characters that are supposed to mimic the characters from The Wizard of Oz, such as Crow, Ironwood, Glinda Good Witch, and Ozpin himself. And later on, another character named Oscar. But again, that's for my volumes 4 and 5 discussion. Semblances are a messy part of the story, because through volumes 1 through 3, they say that semblances are based on a person's personality. It's solely them. They can be inherited, of course, and they all do different things. For the most part, they're not physical. They're more aura-based. Aura being spiritual stuff that I explained earlier. So we have people's semblances like, oh, they can make a shadow clone that takes the hit for them. They have super speed where they are covered in rose petals, which is rubies. Which I know that sounds physical, but it's more of a manifestation of her aura as these rose petals. We've got Pyrrha's magnetism. We have Weiss using glyphs, which doesn't make sense as a semblance to me because they do this whole thing about dust users being like mages in a video game. And Glinda and Cinder end up using some, but they kind of write it away later because Glinda is using her writing crop to do this stuff, and the glyphs that show up are from Cinder. No, wait, that was before she had the power. Never mind. It's still confusing, unless she's some, like, pardon my French, bastard child of the Schnees. Oh, my dogs. Anyways, Yeah, so semblances vary from character to character, but they end up getting retconned in Volume 5, where they say, oh, there's no real evidence that your semblance means anything about you. Which really PO'd a lot of fans. But again, that's for my Volume 4 and 5 discussion. The setting. I love the setting. Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorite Final Fantasies. I know that's a unpopular opinion, but yeah, I love the game. I like the setting. I think there was a lot of good setup for it. They added the maiden powers, and it was interesting because it was like, oh, well, if you have these 4 maidens, you get all their powers, you become godlike. You could recreate the world however you see, whatever. And then Volume 4 and 5 came along. Again, it really sucks that Monty died, and there's a lot of controversy behind it, but I'll leave that be. The character designs I like. There was a little controversy with one of the characters because apparently she was just a copy of some Miku Miku dance character, and there were some lawsuits or whatever. I don't know the specifics behind it. I haven't looked into it fully. But it got a little ridiculous for a little bit there. The Grimm are an interesting character, interesting characters. They are basically heartless, if you ask me. In fact, they could go with that as the reason for them being. Volumes 4 and 5, again, I'll go later. But yeah, the Grimm all have neat little designs. They're all pitch black with bones coming out of them with bits of red on it. And then usually yellow eyes. It kind of gives them the same color scheme as the main team, Ruby. But at the same time, it gives them a fearsome, like, evil kind of look. And there's like giant snakes and wolves, bears, stuff like that. They get a little out of hand later on, but again, that's later. Excuse me. And then they throw magic into the mix. They started it with the maiden powers, where they're like, what if you could do all this, but without using dust? And that is how they explain magic. And then later on they screw it up again. But yeah. So maidens can use any element and mix it together, stuff like that, and they're extremely powerful, and if somebody has all 4, they're going to be as powerful as a god, basically. And again, like I've said the last few minutes, it gets retconned. But yeah, the story seemed intriguing. The premise is good. The idea behind it, the execution. But most of all, people enjoy the choreography. A lot of it I see ripped straight from Dead Fantasy, because before this, I had binge-watched Dead Fantasy and Haloid, and you can see a lot of reused fighting. That being said, they do well in keeping with just a specific style for each character. The Grimm, which are supposed to be these dangerous things, are taken down pretty easily by first-year students that have had very little training. They just came out of primary school, And it's a little annoying to see the Grimm just tossed aside if they're supposed to be this huge problem. Now, if they had larger numbers, or had the ability to be larger, it would make a little more sense. But through volumes 1 and 3, you never see that, except for with a Ursa, which is a bear Grimm. No, yeah, they have a larger Beowulf as well. But basically, the larger, more dangerous ones have more bones on them. Oh, yeah. The elephant in the room. Sorry to any pachydermal faunus out there. The faunus outrage with... It's basically the human rights mixed with racial debates. Because the faunus are supposed to be discriminated against, and everybody brings this up. Besides what the characters say, there's no showing of them being treated any differently than anyone else. And of course, they make the excuse that Vale, which is the kingdom that they are currently in, Vale is a very progressive place. And they're like, oh yeah, it's a faunus, that's fine. But the only discrimination they show against faunus is Carden, one of the characters that gets written out of the show really quickly, really easily. He's just a bully character. Is pulling on a faunus girl's ear named Velvet, who is a second-year student, by the way. So yeah, and that's all you see in all 3 volumes. There's no sign that says, like, no faunus or anything like that. There's no separated lines to go to the bathroom or whatever. No seating specifically for faunus, anything like that. And it bugs the crap out of me, and apparently a lot of other fans, that they don't do anything with the premise. That being said, I know the team is a lot of white people that probably don't know much about the prejudice. And I myself cannot say that I know about the prejudice. I can say, oh, well, I have black friends that know about the prejudice, and how they get looked at, and blah, blah, blah. I can say, oh, I have a kind of prejudice because I'm technically special needs. Yes, that is true. In my state, I am technically a special need person. That is because I'm on the spectrum, which is pretty obvious if you watch my channel. But, so I have minor prejudice. It's a different prejudice than what they're trying to get across. And it bugs me. It really does. But, yeah. So, that's my gripes, complaints, stuff like that about the show. Things that I would do differently. Well, I mean, it's pretty much been talked on by a lot of other characters' channels. Mediocrity, Thomas Vaccaro, I hope I said that right. Eruption Fang, people like that. But, yeah, I would try and keep it a little more consistent. Make the faunus discrimination a little more apparent. Show, don't tell, which that's a big thing in this show. A lot of people tell and don't really show when they need to show and not tell. I'm bad at this. I am bad at the show don't tell. And I'm trying to get better with it. With my fanfic, but I'm not going to talk about my fanfic. First rule of fanfic, don't talk about fanfic. But, yeah. I would make dust users more prevalent, because besides Glinda, Cinder, and Weiss, dust using is almost non-existent. They make it out like it's a big thing, but no. The most you get are people using different kinds of dust for their gun. So they get like a fire shot, a lightning shot. The animation, of course, given the limited resources they had, is brilliant. Given what they had to use, it's really, really good. Nowadays, it could be better. But, again, I don't have that skill. I wish I did. I really wish I did. And the equipment and stuff. But, yeah, so that's my thoughts and everything on volumes 1 through 3. A quick recap. Me talking about it, the characters, etc. I wouldn't do a lot different with volumes 1 through 3, but I would try and explain more with visuals. But, of course, they have a time limit. No, sometimes they add in stupid gags. But they need those gags to kind of pad you for that abrupt tone change at the end of Volume 3. But anyways, go ahead and like and share if you enjoyed. Subscribe to become part of the Panda Party, because there ain't no party like a Panda Party, because Panda Party don't stop. Click that bell to be notified when the party gets started. And I will see you guys in the next video. Later.